In the bustling city of Lagos, Daniel, a young, ambitious software developer, just moved into a new apartment complex. With his easy smile and charming personality, Daniel quickly becomes the center of attention in the neighborhood. One evening, while returning from work, he meets a stunning woman, Sandra, who introduces herself as his new neighbor. Sandra's beauty is captivating, and her soft-spoken manner draws him in instantly. Sandra is full of mystery. She tells Daniel she works in a high-end fashion boutique, but her luxurious lifestyle raises questions. Despite her evasive answers, Daniel is intrigued. She appears kind, bringing him home-cooked meals and listening to his career ambitions. One evening, after an intense conversation about life and love, Sandra lets it slip that her last relationship ended tragically when her fiancé abandoned her after discovering she was pregnant. Her tears tug at Daniel's heart, and he feels an overwhelming need to protect her. But as Daniel's friends meet Sandra, they warn him to tread carefully. She seems too perfect, his best friend John says. Daniel brushes off the warnings, convinced he's found someone special. Yet, Sandra's glances at her phone and her sudden, hushed calls hint at secrets. What is she hiding? The weeks pass, and Daniel and Sandra grow closer. Their evening walks through the city, dinners at fancy restaurants, and heartfelt late-night conversations deepen their bond. Daniel finds himself falling for her hard. One evening, after dinner, Sandra hesitates before confessing, "I think I'm falling for you, Daniel. But I'm scared of my past haunting me." Daniel reassures her, promising to be different from the men who hurt her. But Sandra's sudden mood swings, and her habit of disappearing without explanation start to trouble him. One evening, he follows her to a lounge where she meets a man in a suit. Their heated conversation ends with the man storming off. When Daniel confronts her, Sandra breaks down, claiming it's her ex, who still harasses her. Blinded by love, Daniel consoles her, but doubts creep into his mind. Why does her story keep changing? A few weeks later, Sandra shows up at Daniel's apartment looking unusually distressed. Her eyes are red, and she's clutching her stomach. "Daniel, we need to talk," she says, her voice trembling. Daniel feels his chest tighten. "What's wrong?" he asks, pulling her to sit down. "I'm pregnant," Sandra whispers, her voice barely audible. "It's yours." Daniel's world freezes for a moment. He hadn't planned for this, but the thought of being a father excites and terrifies him at the same time. "Are you sure?" he asks, his voice shaky. Sandra nods, tears streaming down her face. "I know it's sudden, but I need you to stand by me. I can't do this alone." Despite his doubts, Daniel promises to support her. He starts making plans for their future, a small wedding, saving for the baby, and even looking for a bigger apartment. His friends are shocked when he shares the news. John, however, isn't convinced. "Are you sure, Daniel? Something about this feels off. Have you even seen proof of the pregnancy?" he asks. But Daniel dismisses his concerns, defending Sandra's integrity. He convinces himself that love requires trust, even if doubts linger in the back of his mind. Sandra, meanwhile, begins demanding more from Daniel. She asks for money for doctor's appointments and baby supplies. "It's for our child," she reminds him. Daniel obliges, though he notices that Sandra often avoids showing him receipts or medical documents. One night, as Sandra sleeps, Daniel's curiosity gets the better of him. He searches her purse and finds no evidence of doctor visits, only expensive receipts for designer clothes and jewelry. His stomach churns. Could Sandra be lying? Determined to clear his doubts, Daniel decides to follow Sandra one afternoon when she says she's going to the hospital for a checkup. He parks a safe distance away and watches as she walks into a cafe instead of the hospital. Inside, Sandra meets another man, a much older, wealthy-looking businessman. Daniel's heart sinks as he watches them laugh and exchange envelopes. He takes pictures with his phone, feeling betrayed and furious. That evening, Daniel confronts Sandra. "How was the hospital?" he asks, his tone icy. Sandra hesitates, her expression guarded. "It was fine," she says, avoiding his eyes. "Really? Because I saw you at a cafe with another man," Daniel snaps, showing her the photos. Sandra's face pales. "You're spying on me now?" she accuses, deflecting the question. But Daniel presses on, demanding the truth about the pregnancy. Cornered, Sandra finally breaks down. "Fine. I lied, okay? I'm not pregnant. I needed help, and I knew you wouldn't stay if I didn't say something." Daniel feels like the ground has been ripped from under him. "So everything was a lie?" he asks, his voice breaking. Sandra tries to justify her actions, claiming she needed money to pay off debts, but Daniel storms out, shattered. Daniel spends the next few days in a daze, replaying everything Sandra ever told him. The betrayal cuts deep, but his anger fuels a need for answers. He decides to investigate Sandra's past, determined to uncover who she truly is. With John's help, Daniel starts digging. They visit the boutique where Sandra claimed to work, only to find out that she had quit months ago. The manager hesitates before revealing. She left after several complaints about unpaid loans she took from colleagues. Daniel's heart sinks further. They dig deeper, asking around in the neighborhood. An elderly security guard at a nearby estate recognizes her photo. Ah, Sandra? She's notorious. She's been scamming men for years, he says with a chuckle. She pulls the same trick, claims she's pregnant, gets money, and vanishes. Daniel feels a mix of humiliation and fury. Sandra wasn't just lying to him. She had perfected her game. Armed with this new information, Daniel decides it's time to confront her one last time. That evening, Daniel waits for Sandra outside her apartment. When she finally arrives, she's startled to see him. "What are you doing here?" she asks nervously. "I know everything, Sandra," Daniel says coldly. "The lies, the scams, the fake pregnancy. It's all over." Sandra tries to deny it, but Daniel presents the evidence he's gathered. As her facade crumbles, Sandra's expression shifts from shock to resignation. "You don't understand," she snaps. "Do you think I enjoy doing this? This city is cruel, Daniel. I did what I had to do to survive." But Daniel isn't moved. "Survive? You toyed with people's emotions and ruined lives. That's not survival. That's selfishness." Sandra breaks down, but Daniel walks away, determined to leave her toxic web of lies behind. However, a nagging thought remains. What if this wasn't the end of her schemes? Weeks pass, and Daniel tries to rebuild his life. He throws himself into work, focusing on a new app project. His friends rally around him, helping him recover from the emotional scars Sandra left behind. One day, while scrolling through social media, Daniel sees a shocking post. Sandra with another man, claiming to be expecting his child. It's clear she's back to her old tricks. Feeling an obligation to prevent others from falling victim, Daniel decides to warn the man. He tracks him down through mutual connections and explains everything. The man, stunned, confronts Sandra, who quickly disappears from the scene. Though it's a small victory, Daniel realizes he can't let Sandra's actions dictate his future. He focuses on finding genuine relationships, vowing never to ignore red flags again. During a tech conference, Daniel meets Lisa, a kind, ambitious woman with a passion for entrepreneurship. Unlike Sandra, Lisa is open and honest, sharing her dreams and struggles. Slowly, Daniel begins to trust again, learning to love without fear. Months later, while walking through a market in Lagos, Daniel spots a familiar face, Sandra. She's arguing with a shopkeeper, trying to talk her way out of paying for goods. Her once polished appearance is gone, replaced by a haggard, worn-out look. Sandra notices Daniel and freezes. For a moment, their eyes meet, and Daniel sees something he never noticed before, regret. But he walks away without a word, realizing he's finally free of her hold. Back at home, Daniel reflects on the lessons he's learned. Trust is fragile, and love should never be built on lies. Sandra's betrayal was painful, but it taught him to value honesty and integrity above all else. Now, with Lisa by his side and a thriving career, Daniel feels a sense of peace. He knows he deserves happiness, and no amount of deception can take that away from him again. Thank you for watching. Kindly share your thoughts about the story in the comment section. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share for more videos.